Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to this Game 3 of this Best of 3 series between Exertus Esports and Choke Gaming. My name is Verius. Join with me is the one and only Sona, and we are here to bring you this fantastic game. It is going to be beautiful, it's going to be wonderful, and we should be jumping into picks and bans fairly soon.
Yep, just waiting on the teams to be ready to go. Looks like it's going to be Choke on the blue side, Exertus on the red side, and as we've seen thus far, blue side a little bit of a curse for these players. They don't enjoy getting their blue suede shoes on, they're feeling blue. There's a song, isn't there? I feel blue, Abadi Babadai, or something like that.
That is indeed a song.
That's the song. They are feeling blue.
Dabadi Dabadai. And I think as though coming into this game, Olaf will be a priority pick. I'm not entirely sure whether it's going to be banned or whether it's going to be prioritized, but being on that blue side, it could be something that Choke look to try and value, because so far it has had a massive impact, just running onto the backline, doing so much damage, being a real nuisance, and being just so difficult to really help your carries peel off of. So.
Yeah. I find this really interesting from Choke, though. They banned out Morgana again when Wizards only played Thresh this series. The only person to play Morgana has been the Haddo, and I'm not sure how tilty Numlocked is. I don't think he's a very tilty man, but do you think he's banning Morgana away from his own support?
He could very well be. I do know that Numlocked and Haddo do like to occasionally share encouraging words over Twitter, and perhaps he feels that he doesn't want to run the risk of his support being allowed that Morgana after his 0-9 performance in Game 1. So that could be one reason for it. Another reason could be that it's actually a very good pick into things like the Olaf. So they're going to try and deny it so that they can go for that very early rotation Olaf. Final ban is available for Exertus. Olaf is the big question. Tom Kench is also available, and that is going to be going away. I do expect the Olaf to come out here from Numlocked.
I'm surprised we haven't seen a Kindred at all. I know that she's stronger in solo queue than she is in ranked in pre-made 5s, but that ultimate, the Lamb's Respite, still incredibly powerful if you use it correctly, especially when you've got a team or an AD carry like Joker's enjoys playing, Misfortune, because you can keep her safe. She can pop the bullet time. If anyone gets near her, you put Lamb's Respite underneath her to keep her safe. She can allow her not to have to kite away after proccing that ultimate, and just gets all of this extra damage down.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because when we first saw this new lineup coming out from Choke, they actually brought Kindred out in their very first game. Plex had a fantastic showing on the champion, was really able to propel the early game in favor of Choke that set them up for the rest of the game. So Choke are used to playing with that champion, but it does appear that Dongs doesn't really value it as much. They're going to go for a very early Rek'Sai, and I think this is a bit of a risk, because that means Exertus, Dan can get his well-renowned Lee Sin. They may very well be able to pick up the Olaf for themselves, and I think this is a pretty interesting pick and ban already from both these teams.
Very interesting indeed. The Rek'Sai already for Dongs decides to give up the Lee Sin to Dan. Now, Dan's been playing a very strong Lee Sin recently. He's played a very good Rek'Sai in the last couple of games as well. Dongs not gone back onto that Mundo, and I think for very good reason. Did not have any effect on it in that first game, and once again we see Exertus picking up that Thresh as one of their first picks. It's a priority pick for Wiz, and it works so well with Sir Scott, because Sir Scott likes to be that aggressive AD carry, likes to play the Vayne. Having that Lantern that he can grab and get out of jail free with really helps him out a lot.
And Wiz is just so proficient on the champion. Even last game where they did end up losing, he was still so talented during the laning phase. He was managed to interrupt a lot of the headbutt pulverize combos simply using his Flay. He was able to land so many beautiful hooks. They were able to set up the first blood during that last game thanks to a flash hook that came out from Wiz. Definitely one of his comfort champions, definitely something that he's been playing very well throughout this series, and they feel that it is something that they need to prioritize, but it is once again going to give Numlocked the Olaf and Jokerism that Misfortune.
Yeah, but once again, I mean, I was surprised we didn't see Olaf locked in earlier by Exertus, because it's worked so well for them when Miv and Vayne played that, but I'm really surprised as well to see this MF being picked up again. Jokerism, it was a good showing in the second game, but the first game he really struggled with it, and if Sir Scott has early gank pressure from Dan with Wiz there as well, I don't see them finding it that easy to play up into that lane, and I feel that Jokerism is a very good AD carry. I know you disagree with that, Vidius, but he's a very good AD carry, and sometimes you need to put your AD carry on someone who carries a little bit better than an MF.
I think the reason they largely put him on champions like MF is, in the current meta, MF provides a very teamfight orientated sort of skill set. So it's very similar in the sense of Sivir. They obviously don't provide the same sort of function, but they work in the same way that they're built around the team. They're not about being the solo carry, they're about providing as much damage and utility during the team fights as they can. And that is because Numlocked traditionally has been known as one of the hard carries for the lineup of Choke. Same for Ravano. On this Ahri in particular, he is just so impactful. I talked about when they played against FM a few weeks ago, Ravano pretty much solo carried on this Ahri, and last game you saw him pretty much do it again. He was landing charm after charm after charm, that it was just... he propelled Choke into a position where they could come back into the game, close it out, and equalize this series. So having those two big carries, I guess they've just decided that Jokerism needs to be more on a team-based AD carry and can't really be the focal point of the team. Whereas for Exertus, they're all about Sir Scott. They're all about getting him ahead, relying on his mechanics to really do the work, and you saw him almost come out in a 2 versus 1 after a very shaky team fight in that last game.
It's just because crits heal, man. Crits healing has made Sir Scott so much stronger as an AD carry, because he loves those 1v1s, he loves those 2v2s, and with the fact that crits heal and the way that he can build Vayne now, static shiv, rapid fire cannon, IE, he can 1v1 most top laners at that point, especially if he's like not a couple of kills down on them. He can really face up into these matchups. Speaking of matchups, so Ravano, once again on his Ahri, as you said, it's a Kassadin lock into that. How do you feel that plays out in the mid lane?
During the early game, it's going to go very heavily in favor of Ravano. That is just the natural matchup, Ahri against the Kassadin. It's very difficult for a Kassadin to trade pre-6, but once he gets through the rough laning phase, he's likely going to go for a refillable potion. He's likely just going to be trying to play as passively as possible, probably go for a very early Rod of Ages, maybe go for an Abyssal Scepter. It is a little bit cheaper on this patch, but he's basically waiting to ramp up. He's not looking to make these early game plays. And I think for Exertus, that works for them. Because as you've seen, and as we've talked about many times, they get a lead, they don't know what to do with it. So what they're going to probably try and do this game is not even try to get a lead, just farm things up, stall the game out, wait for a late game, wait to outscale the lineup of Choke, and then go for the team fights. Use that very intelligent play that we've seen from them in the past to run away with the game.
Most definitely. I think Exertus need to put that early pressure on once more, and Dan is in a prime position to do it on this Lee Sin. Very strong on that champ. Playing into Dongs on the Rek'Sai though. Dongs showed what you can do on Lee Sin in the last game. Did not have a good first game on that Mundo. He hasn't actually had any good early games yet. The second game was him just playing better as we got later into the game, picking off people left, right, and center. Can he show his stuff in the early game here? Because I feel they really need him to get them ahead in the early game to help them scale into the later game portion of this match. Because otherwise you've got a Kassadin, you've got a Vayne, you've got Lisa in there to protect the Vayne, you've got Hecarim who could jump on the back line of your team as well. And I'm just not sure how easy they'll find it to face up into this Exertus lineup.
That's the ultimate question. We talked about how Dongs has come in as I believe he's a substitute, as Nocturnal Plex is not available for this series, and Plex has been a very large reason as to Choke's success, thanks to his early aggression, thanks to the early ganks that he's so renowned for getting off. And with the introduction of Dongs, it's taken Choke a little while to adjust, but I feel as though now they're used to Dong's playstyle. I think that Choke as a whole will change up their whole playstyle during the laning phase, because Dongs has not had an impact, as you've already stated, during these laning stages, and as long as Choke can get through that phase of the game without any major losses, like we've seen so far in the first 2 games, then Dong can really start having an impact in the mid game, because that seems to be where things kick into gear for him and he really starts to have an impact.
And something we were talking about a little bit in the break, Vedius, we seem to see Exertus win the early game really well, and then get hit back slightly, take a punch, take a cheap shot perhaps from Choke, who pick off a kill here, maybe pick off a Baron or a Dragon, a Rift Herald or a Dragon, and then Exertus just decide not to fight anymore. They're just like, oh, we'll just farm for the next 20 minutes and see what happens in the late game team fights. I really feel they need to keep pushing their advantage, even if they fall behind a little bit, even if they lose a couple of kills. They need to keep forcing these objectives, forcing these fights, because they do it so well that even if they're a little bit behind when they go into the fight, 9 times out of 10 they're going to come out of it ahead.
That's exactly it. Exertus seem to be very much a momentum-based team. Once they have the momentum going in their favor, then it's very easy for them to close out the game. But if for a second, and even just for a second, they lose that momentum and things suddenly go wrong, then everything goes out the window. They have no idea what to do. They don't know how to collect themselves, and things just fall apart for them. So I think what they've done with this composition, this some more late game composition, to try and avoid that early game advantage that they often build, I think is quite smart, because now they're playing more towards the late game. They're more about, okay, Choke, we're not going to try and fight you in the early game. We're going to just play super passive. We're going to wait a while. And then once we get to the point in the game where we feel confident, where we have, or, you know, the game is fairly even and the momentum hasn't drastically swung one way or the other, that is when we're going to capitalize. That is when we're going to take advantage. And that's when we're going to close out this series.
Well, here we are onto the Rift, boys. It's Choke Gaming on the blue side versus Exertus Esports on the red. It is the deciding match of this best of 3. The winner of this takes, I think it's second place in the ESL UK. It could be second or third place in the ESL UK Premiership, but more than that, they do not have to face up against Team Infused in the semi-finals. The loser faces up against the monstrous force that is the Infused roster at the moment.
The thing is, at the moment, in between the top teams, the standings are ridiculously close. As it stands, we do see that Choke is sitting in second place. FM is sitting in third place, Exertus is sitting in fourth place, and Infused is sitting in first place. Now, the winner of today's game and the winner of tomorrow's game with FM and Infused is going to be very impactful to these standings. Every team obviously wants to win to increase their chances of making it to the finals during the playoffs that will be happening later on in December, and it's just super important for both these teams to really pull out all the stops in this game.
It really is. Once again, safe starts from both these teams. They've lined up across the river. It looks like it's going to be a 1v1 matchup in the top lane. Not the lane swap we saw last game. Perhaps a blue-sided strat there coming out from Exertus. Didn't pay off for them in the end, with them losing those 2 towers, but double corrupting potions picked up in the top lane, and a corrupted potion on Alchemist as well. Something we see quite often on Kassadins now.
Yeah, it's the replacement for the Flask. You need that sustain during the early game. Kassadin is renowned for having a rough laning phase, and when you're especially playing up against an Ari, she can very easily shove you under the tower and make your life difficult. So being able to get that corrupted potion to provide you with a bit of sustain is necessary to get you through the rough laning phase that you naturally have. Once he goes back, once he hits level 6, the laning phase will be a lot easier for him. And it's just the nature of Kassadin. Very late scaling, not a laning phase champion.
Yeah.
Something that Raveno's going to do his best to capitalize on.
Oh, most definitely. Double up hits Wiz in the bot lane. Takes him down to half HP already. He has got the pots to keep himself, or the biscuits, sorry, to keep himself healthy in that lane though. And the Haddock played a superb game on Alistair in the last game. I really like this adaptation by them, switching away from the Morgana onto the Alistair instead. Gives them a little bit more engaged potential, gives them a bit more peel as well, because although Morgana has some peel with the Dark Binding and the Black Shield, Alistair has even greater ability to keep his AD carry safe.
And I like that you mentioned about the engage potential from Alistair, because that is something that a bit of Choke I feel is missing, but how? Because a gank is coming from the mid lane.
Yeah, Dan's going to try and get to Raveno. He misses the charm, and Raveno might have to burn Flash here. Not going to have to. Does get taken down to about a third of his HP, though. Great play there by Dan to come in for the early gank before doing his blue.
So this is very smart from Dan. The thing is, when you have a Lee Sin, he is an early game jungler. That is traditionally what he's been known for. And when you have laners that are very late scaling, you know that they're traditionally or typically going to get pushed under tower. And you can take advantage of that, especially during the early game, because Raveno, he doesn't have many escapes available to him. He doesn't have the Spirit Rush just yet, and as long as you can dodge out from the charm, then
Alchemist
it's a lot
might have
easy
to
damage.
flash here, because Dongs is there. Doesn't land the knock-up, though, and Alchemist will just walk away. Dongs a little bit too eager. Just on releasing that knock-up, on unbothering. Didn't manage to connect onto the Kassadin.
So finally from Dongs, we see an early gank. Nice for him to finally change up his playstyle, put some pressure down onto the weak laners of Alchemist. but wasn't quite able to make anything work. So some failed ganks, just a bit of pressure, basically sending a message in the mid game, in the middle lane from both the junglers so far.
Yeah. And as you said, like Dong's actually showing up in the early game is pretty important. So Scott takes a little bit of damage from the love tap there from Jokerism. Just showing his affection for Scott's Vayne. Something that hasn't been banned away from him, actually, at all in this best of 3. He's played it very well in every single game, but they just think with the Olaf pick, with that Rek'Sai as well, they can shut him down better than they did in that first game.
Definitely can. Notice how Dan is sitting around the bottom lane. I believe we've seen this before in game 1. He's going for it again.
There is a Tribush ward this time, but Jokerism has to flash early. Actually, Dan misses the Sonic Wave. Play comes back onto the Shadow. Jokerism uses his flash and gets himself away, so Scott takes about half his HP, but crits heal, boys, and he should be okay.
Yeah, that was a much happier start for Choke, I think. Some awful flashbacks coming in for Jokerism, like, not again! Immediately going to burn that flash to avoid that gank, because the gank comes in on the top
lane.
lane.
Who doesn't have a flash? Mivin Rain doesn't have a flash, but he might be able to rampage his way away. Dodges the undertone, will get under the tower. We didn't really talk about that a huge amount. Mivin Rain, no flash at all on that champion. He's gone for the Ignite teleport.
Yeah, something that you traditionally see on a Hecarim. It is something that he can get away with simply due to the high amount of mobility that he does have in his skill set. Very easy to just dodge out of that one. Charm lands onto Alchemist.
Yeah, and Dongs is here from the side. Has got that flash available if he wants to engage. Will not get it onto Alchemist, who has his own flash. So decides not to go for the summoner spell trade. But a bit of pressure onto Alchemist once more in the mid. Almost 6 now, though.
Exertus down there, wants to
Dan
get a gank
comes in,
himself.
he's got onto Raveno, but the charm comes out, he's going to go down, and Raveno picks up first blood, and a blue buff on the Ari. Exertus down a little bit too aggressive, didn't realise Dongs was around the corner, and he got taken out by Raveno.
So for the first time in this series, Choke finally get themselves first blood off of Dan, not realizing that Dongs was still hanging around the middle lane. Very nice collapse coming out from Choke Gaming to not only get a blue buff onto Raveno, but to get him the first blood, get him going on his very well-known Ari. Great start for Choke Gaming.
Yeah, as we saw in the last game, as soon as Raveno gets rolling, as soon as he starts to hit those charms, it's very difficult to face up against him. Looks like Choke have the upper hand thus far in this game. Some very good early ganks by Dongs. So Scott taking a lot of damage from those double ups in the bot lane. That gank actually really didn't pay off for him. He lost a lot of HP, had to burn through that pot, and now can be nowhere near as aggressive as he'd like.
And this is the important thing for Exertus. Notice now Dan was doing a lot of early ganks, something that we're so used to seeing from him, but something went wrong. And every time we've seen something go wrong from Exertus, their momentum completely collapses. And Dan needs to keep applying the pressure. He is still going to go for another gank in the mid. This is what I was talking about. He can't afford to just stop ganking. He's playing Lee Sin. He needs to help his scaling laners out through this rough laning phase. And if he stops, it's really going to hurt Exertus coming into the later stages of this game.
That it is. And they have some pretty hard scaling laners, as you said. Vayne and Kassadin scale very well later into the game. Kassadin has a very weak early portion of this game. Gets taunted up there. Will take some damage from the Orb of Deception, but now with the needlessly large rod on Raveno, he's got level 6, he's got Spirit Rush, he can get out of these ganks from Dan, and Dan's going to have to start showing his mechanics, getting those kicks off to actually pay off dividends. Dong's going to come in here, Raveno does try and get onto Alchemist, but a good flash away by Alchemist will keep him safe. Dan is in the bush, clears out a ward, and will just back away. Dong's actually not yet level 6, so can't get back to this fight too quickly if he leaves.
But remember what I was saying about Alchemist on this caster. The moment he hits 6 and he completes that catalyst, he's going to be able to deal with the aggression coming out from Raveno on this Ari, and he immediately goes in as Wiz goes in the bot lane.
Jokerism gets kicked, the TP's come in, Donks is going to join the fight, Jokerism's going to pop the bullet type and gets stunned straight away, and the hook lands as well, Jokerism goes down, so does the Scott. There comes the Spirit Dragon, here comes Mivin Rain, what can they do? They're going to chase up the Donks. Raveno's joined the frame, Mivin Rain's going to go down, it's a double kill for Raveno, a great fight for Choke. And they totally turn this one round with Numlock picking up the last kill as well. 4-for-1 trade in favour of Choke.
That was a beautiful collapse coming out from Choke. They realized what Exertus were doing, and immediately all of them collapsed. This is the teamwork that we were missing from them in Game 1 and half of Game 2. They have really stepped things up coming into this, and the way that they were just easily able to collapse onto the bottom lane of Exertus, able to pick up 4 kills, I believe, has really swung the game in their favor very heavily already in this Game 3.
Great play by Dongs. He's really shown up this early game. He's 0-0-5, been involved in every single kill. It looked there like Sir Scott and the gang almost had the upper hand. They picked off Jokerism very quickly, cancelled the bullet time almost immediately, but Raveno came in, Numlock came in, Dongs was there, and there was just nothing that Exertus could do to win out that trade.
They definitely couldn't, and now you can see 5-1 in kills, 2,000 gold advantage in favor of Choke, and the real question is here, can Choke now use the early game lead that they've been able to build up? Because so far in the first 2 games, they have not. Any sort of lead that they had, they were too over-aggressive, they got too cocky, and they just threw away that lead far too easily. It was just not the Choke that we're used to seeing, and now coming into Game 3, they have a great start to the game. Now they need to be smart about it. They need to rein back a bit with their aggression. They need to, they need to put the leash on just a little bit and slowly build this lead further and further as the game progresses.
All it takes to get Sir Scott down to about 3rd HP is an auto attack and a double up. That love tap is so strong. Miven Rain can no longer fight against Numlock because Numlock has the Caulfield's Warhammer and that Phage. There's so small a window here for Exertus to get back into the game. Choke really need to make mistakes for Exertus to have a shot.
They definitely do, and the thing is, so far from what we're seeing, Choke, Game 1, made a huge number of mistakes. Game 2, at the start, they were making a lot of mistakes, but then halfway through, they changed things up. And so far in this game, they've really been playing on point. And it's just so impressive to see how well they've developed over the series. They recognize their issues and very quickly fix them. And I feel as though you have to give credit to... maybe it comes as a result of Numlock moving in from the Turkish LCS. Same for Raveno. Both have a lot of experience playing at a high level, and playing in these series, it's very good to have that experience to be able to keep yourself calm, not get tilted too hard, and just realize, okay, it's only Game 1, we can still come back in 2 and 3, and Choke have done a phenomenal job of that in this series.
That they have, and Numlock doing a phenomenal job of... that was almost a word there, I promise, it was almost phenomenal. A phenomenal job of catching Miven Rain out, doing a lot of damage. Dan tries to get onto Raveno. Raveno has very little mana left, and there's the connection. And Dan starts to show his mechanics on that Lee Sin, picks up his 2nd kill of the game. He's got all the kills for his team, though. And we saw Dongs almost joining the fight in time, but not quite enough, as Dan helps Exertus start to exert some pressure.
Good to see that Dan, even though he's had a bit of a rough early game, is still looking for those ganks, looking to make those plays around the map, and that was just very well executed. Raveno did not respect the damage coming out from Alchemist, and Dan got a great Dragon's Rage to lock him up long enough to land the resonating strike, and it was beautiful play. Very nice gank in the mid lane.
Definitely was. Speaking of beautiful play, the Haddo and Jokerism doing a beautiful job now of shutting Sir Scott away from this XP. Slowly pushing the lane towards him, but really pressuring him every time he gets close. Getting those those love taps off. There's the bullet time, and here comes Dongs as well. Wiz not in a good position at all. I mean, Haddo can tank this tower for days. The box comes down. What can Sir Scott do? Not much, is the answer, as Dong chase him down. They don't get any kills from the tower dive. Wiz, if he can catch someone under this tower here, might be able to help make a play, because Dan is here. But it looks like Sir Scott's just going to go back to farming under the tower. The dive didn't work out as well as expected. The Haddo gets caught. He's not tanking the tower yet. The Wiz goes very low. Joker isn't tanking the tower, but Dongs does pick up the kill. Dan gets knocked away. The TP comes in very late, and Dong's going to knock up Sir Scott as well. Everyone's dead. Miven Rain will pick up one, but the rest of your team are dead. All your friends are dead, and at the moment, Jokerism will get away. Doesn't get caught by the false post. Can he get away from the second Rift Walk? Yes, he can, but Miven Rain's going to keep chasing the Haddo, the target. Miven Rain, can you take him out with Alchemist? The Rift Walk is available. Raveno's still in the mid lane, and here comes Miven Rain onto Jokerism. Miven Rain will not go down. Jokerism will, and a good turnaround there for Exertus as Alchemist and Miven Rain finally join the fray.
What a very long drawn out team fight, which resulted in actually a 3-for-3 between those two teams. I want to give massive credit to Wiz with the initial tower dive that came out from Choke,
then,
because of how well he played that. He managed to get the Flay down to pretty much deny Dongs from actually getting any follow-up. The bullet time meant that Jokerism was very far back in the fight, which meant that he just couldn't quite get involved, couldn't get the damage down. He was purely relying on his ultimate to spread that damage across. Then the box came down, followed with the exhaust that actually went down onto Dongs, just completely denied any follow-up from Choke to prevent that dive from succeeding. The problem then came when Dan tried to turn things around, and Exertus just stayed a little bit too long. They had no mana really to turn things around. All of their ultimates were on cooldown, and because of the gold advantage that Choke had, they were able to come out ahead. But nice teleport and nice rotation coming down from the two solo laners of Choke to be able to pick up some kills on the back of that. So 3v3 overall, nice trade for both teams.
I think the really good thing for Choke off that is, yes, it was a 3-for-3, but because Alchemist and Mid and Rain had to spend so much time getting into the bot lane and fighting that, we saw Numlock picking up top tower, we saw Raveno picking up mid tower, 2-tower trade, and now that's what's pushing this far ahead in the gold. Yes, they've got 3 kills, but they're 4,000 gold ahead, and they get the Rift Herald on Numlock as well, which means Mid and Rain's going to struggle even more against this Olaf.
By maxing, I do believe he's maxing the Undertow. I'm just going to make sure. Yeah, he is maxing that Undertow. You can see how easily he's just shoving Niv and Rain out of lane. I talked about how this... Oh, hang on, the bottom lane.
Oh, bottom lane is a massive kill there. Dan gets taken out by Jokerism. Not sure what he was deciding to do there. Alchemist there as well. We'll just run away, but... So Scott and Wiz were nowhere near that. They're looking to find a kill onto Numlock. So Scott goes in, gets the red buff proc, but you cannot be disabled. He's Ragnarok's his way away. And there's nothing they can do. Raveno pushes the mid tower, might even be able to get this one down. He needs to be careful though, because he's getting locked in from all sides. Here comes Alchemist, the charm does come out, but Wiz is there. Raveno's going to try and run away, gets force balls. Oh, not going to quite connect. And the tower goes down as well. They're going to get Dragon as well. Objective, objective, objective is all that this Choke Gaming can think about at the moment as they pick up their second Dragon of the game and their 4th turret.
They're playing the map so well right now. I don't know what Dan was trying to do in the bottom, and you can see he even used his flash and ultimate to try and set a play up, but it was only him and Wiz versus Jokerism and Hado. And Jokerism didn't actually have to burn any summoner spells right there. They were very easily able to turn that around in favor of Choke, and it pretty much meant that they had the numbers advantage all across the map. People from Exertus tried to collapse onto Numlocked in the top lane, but there was no way for them to get anything out of that. And because of that, Ravenu knew, oh, I can just easily take the mid lane. They get the mid lane, and they get the Dragon off the back of that. I've given credit to Exertus for their great macro play, but Choke right here, once they get this lead, they do know what to do with it. And this is the biggest difference between those two teams, because Exertus have really struggled. They get a lead, they throw it away. Choke, they get a lead, and they are choking the life out of Exertus right now.
Yeah, most definitely, and Numlock doing a superb job in the top lane. We saw the entire team trying to collapse in onto him, but not able to do much. And good fast sight orb there, spotting them out. Numlock's actually gone for that one himself as well, so lots of vision control being brought here by Choke, and Dong steals away the Krugs. It looks like Jokerism's going to go down into the bot lane, try and do what he can there. Raveno dodges out the charm there. Alchemist just trying to put his pressure down onto the Sari.
So at this point, the best thing that Exertus can hope for is to stall, because they have a late game scaling composition. We talked about how this game they've decided to play around that late game, play around the macro transitions and decision making that they're so used to, as Wiz is getting caught up.
Oh, but the Sonic Wave doesn't connect. Mivin Main's here though, and Dong's not in a good position at all. Alchemist is going to join the fight, and they knock him away from the burrow, and he goes down. Dan picks up the kill. And bit by bit, Exertus trying to take what they can and get back into this game. However, they've left Sir Scott by himself in the bot lane to defend versus 3 members of Choke.
And I think Choke are going to be able to pick up another tower. So for everything that they lose somewhere on the map, they get something back somewhere else.
Oh, but here comes Alchemist. Oh, Wiz, you utter noob, manages to flash and hook a minion. But here comes Mivin Main. Dan gets caught with the charm. They're going to go back into the dam. There's the lantern to get him out. Alchemist is here. Numlocked joins the fray. Ragnarok straight away. Mivin Main decided not to join from the side, but Wiz pulling a little bit of a misplay out of his hat there. Flashes, hooks a minion. Doesn't connect on anyone, and they get the tower.
Yeah, big misplay coming out from Wiz. Unfortunately for Wiz, I feel as though the only target he was actually going to lock down was Hado, and that's not really the target you want to be focusing, but with the numbers advantages that they actually have, that was a 5 versus 4 in favor of Exertus, yet they still weren't able to get the fight they want, and it's because of how so much farther behind they are. There is an 8,000 gold difference between the two teams simply because of the tower difference. 5-0 in favor of Choke. And it just comes back to the story of this game. Choke have not been able to get a gold lead throughout this series. They finally get one, and they show Exertus how to use it, because Exertus have not been able to use their gold lead throughout this series. It has been really surprising as to how much momentum has actually affected them, and I feel as though Choke have recognized this and are punishing Exertus. It's so hard right now.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we've seen though is Exertus will get to about this point in the game. They'll be quite far ahead, there'll be like 1 or 2 inner towers left. They won't have cracked the base of the enemy team, and then they'll lose a couple of kills, lose an objective, and they'll tilt from there. Well, they won't tilt, they'll delay the game from there. The question is now, if Choke lose a team fight here, do they then delay the game in the same way that Exertus would do? Thus far, they haven't done it, but there's always the possibility. There's always the psychological aspect to losing a game, because to them, it's 9-6. Yes, they'll have a bit of knowledge about how many towers they've got, how many towers the enemy's got. They'll think, oh, we're actually quite far ahead in gold, but it's only 9-6. If they lose a couple of kills, it becomes, well, if they lose 4 kills, it becomes 9-10. And then are the enemy team ahead? Do they have more gold than us? It's psychological warfare to some degree. And as you said, there's some experienced players on Choke who can fight up against that, but you never know what's going to tilt the team.
And this is a very important thing to take into consideration, because how smart Choke choose to play these next few team fights is going to be very integral to who comes out ahead. In the past, throughout this series in particular, we've seen them hang on because
Miven Rain gets caught out. He does try and get away, and he might actually bullet time is just going to be enough with the undertow, and Numlock there as well. Dan tries to flash away, will get away with the lantern. Numlock tanking the tower for days. It looks like Choke once more pick up a kill in the enemy jungle. They're going to try and get onto Alchemist as well. Ravno pushes them back. They get the tower. Now they're going for the inhibitor tower. It's pinged 4 times. That means it's important. They've got the Rift Herald buff as well.
Look at Scott.
Olaf. They're going to be able to pick up the tower. So Scott nowhere near this. Once more trying that split push mechanic on main. You're not double if so Scott. You might have great mechanics, but you can't split for days. So Scott will join the fray, but only after the inhibitor goes down and Choke back away.
That is the best use of the Rift Herald that I have ever seen in patch 5.22. Notice how they recognized they had a strong minion wave thanks to the Rift Herald buff, which is effectively a Baron buff sitting on top of Numlocked. They had the numbers advantage after taking Miven Rain down. They knew that Sir Scott was nowhere near because he was still in the bottom lane taking that tier 1 tower. And yeah, great, Exertus finally get themselves the first tower of the game, but you're going to lose an inhibitor as a result. You cannot clear the waves of these unrelenting Baron minions hitting on your base, and with a composition that naturally has very little wave clear, there's nothing that you can do about it. Very smart decision making coming out from Choke. We wondered how they would be able to execute this lead, and they've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, definitely doing a superb job. And just a little pause at the moment. It wouldn't be UK esports unless we had a pause and just get all these issues sorted out. But it's 9,000 gold now for Choke. What I love they've done here as well. Rift Herald just get taken. Baron's just spawned. They get the inhibitor. They can go back for Baron now if they want to. They've still got Miven Rain only just respawning, so they can be a little bit greedy if they want to. They do, of course, have to be careful. So Scott has 2 items, Static Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon, so is in a good position to fight in these battles if he wants to, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Choke picking up another objective here.
It wouldn't be that surprising. They're a little bit low right now. I'm just going to have a quick look at the gold to see how much they have to spend. At the moment, they're all sitting on a little over 1,000 gold, so it wouldn't be that surprising if they decide to go back, look to... I was going to say refresh their wards, but those don't exist anymore. So...
got to refresh those wards. It's important stuff.
They'll probably look to pick themselves up a couple items, maybe set up some vision around the Baron, and then look to try and take that objective next. But with the dragon spawning in about 30 seconds, picking up that 3rd dragon would also be a very nice thing to get. But the big thing for me is... Oh, hang on, they're actually going to go for the Baron. Very risky for the side of Choke.
Yeah, I think Dongs just went in, thought, oh, we'll take it. No, we weren't. There was vision, and if there was no vision there, I wouldn't have been surprised if they just tried to take it as quickly as possible. MF does a lot of damage. We've got Ari there as well. Alchemist actually going to jump onto Ari, dodges out the charm as well, but with the charm love tap combo available with the MF just around the corner, decides against staying around for too long.
Notice now, Dragon has just about spawned. That is likely the next objective that Choke are going to go for. They're already dropping vision around that area of the map. And being able to pick up that 3rd dragon, as previously mentioned, is a nice objective to get. Nice chunk of movement speed is always something valuable. They have found Alchemist in the jungle.
He's got a great escape there. Rift Walk into the Lantern. He just gets him a mile away. They did try and engage onto him, but now the Dragon's free. It's the third Dragon. The increased move speed for the side of Choke is going to be very, very strong, especially with that Olaf trying to get onto the back line. It looks like they're going to try and pressure for this blue buff as well, but Alchemist will take it away. So Scott's still there, and Choke do just back away. We see Miv and Rain up in the top lane trying to counter push this wave, but still no tower. Oh, sorry, one tower on the board for Exertus. They did take that bot lane tower a while ago.
They certainly did, and right now this is the crucial point for Choke Gaming. We've talked about it so many times. Can Choke use a lead? Up to this point, they've done a great job. Every small advantage that they've been able to gain, they've taken a major objective off the back of it. You can see the massive differential in towers, the massive differential in objectives, off to the very smart plays coming out from Choke Gaming so far. But this is the crucial point. This is the do or die moment, because the Baron could be a very big objective. They also have an inhibitor open. If they can get a second inhibitor, they are primed to close out this game, close out this series, and potentially secure themselves second place during the group stages.
Well, they have started up the Baron, however, Wiz will spot it out. There is a Lee Sin just around the corner. Now, Dan does always have the opportunity for a steal. Lee Sin known to be one of those champions that you can not easily steal on, but you have the ability to. He's not going to get in though. The Haddo doing a superb job of body blocking Dan, and now Raveno decided to engage. So Scott tries to out himself away, almost gets taken down just by Raveno going in, but here comes Alchemist. They might turn this one round. Dongs goes low, the Haddo's going to go down to the Ignite, and Dongs will go down to Sir Scott. They have picked up Baron, but there's a Hecarim rampaging his way towards this team. Can he lock them out? Alchemist goes in, gets the Force Bust down, and here comes Miv and Rain. What can the Hecarim do? He's a mighty, mighty pony, but actually Olaf says, excuse me, you're my little pony, and backs him away. Good Baron take there by Choke. They do lose two members, and they're probably going to lose their mid tower, but they'll say worth.
This comes back to a previous problem that we've seen from Choke in the past, though, where they seem kind of split as a team. They've done a great job of being very team-orientated up until that point, where half the team decided to go for a fight, go for the engage onto the back line of Exertus, whereas the rest of the team were just kind of clearing out the scuttle crab, kind of disengaging, not really knowing what they were doing. And this split decision-making could come back to bite Choke in the behind, because this is what resulted in them losing the first game and falling so far behind in the second one. Yes, they were able to bring it back in the second game because of how well they were able to bring their teamwork together. We just have to make sure that, they need to make sure that they can hold that together, because teamwork is so important when playing up against this very intelligent Exertus lineup.
Most definitely, and with Sir Scott picking up his first kill of the game, he's starting to get towards that position on Vayne that he likes to be, and he hasn't got anywhere near as many kills as he previously has done in previous games, but Alchemist picking up a couple of kills for himself. He's got a Zhonya's now, can put some pressure down, can jump in and out of these fights without too much worry, but the Baron's still on Jokerism and Raveno, means they can take this inhibitor tower very, very quickly. It's already down. And as you said, as soon as they get this second inhibitor, it really spells doom for Exertus. What can Exertus do to hold this up?
They need to go for a fight, and they are looking to go for it, but they're a little bit hesitant. They need to focus onto the backline because of how much damage Raveno does.
Alchemist goes in. Though here comes Miv and Rain, gets onto Jokerism in the backline, but it's not going to be enough. Miv and Rain, the bullet time is huge, and Dom picks up the kill. Dan tries to jump in. Miv and Rain, they do pick up Jokerism, but DX Alchemist all alone now will get charmed up. And Raveno picks up his shutdown. They're going to chase up to Sir Scott. What can he do? Crit's heal, remember? Not going to be enough. He's going to get chased up. Mumbot picks up the kill. And now Sir Scott retreating all the way to his base. This is Choke's game. This is Choke's Nexus. It's going to be Choke's series as well. They're going to take the second Nexus tower. They're going to go for the end. Sir Scott getting chased away by the super minions. Choke Gaming 2-1 against Exertus. Superb play by them. The game will end, and they're going to take the superior position when we're going to the semi-finals, the ESL UK Premierships.
Congratulations to Choke Gaming coming out ahead in this series against Exertus Esports. The biggest thing I want to note about that final team fight was that the focus went on to Jokerism. We talked about how he tends to be always put on this misfortune pick. Now it's more of a team-orientated AD carry rather than being the solo carry like we've seen on Sir Scott. And as a result of that, even if you focus him down, it doesn't matter because the main carries of Choke are still available. 405 numlocked, 6-1 and 4 Raveno, these are the guys you need to be shutting down. These are the individuals that you need to be deleting because they are the ones that really impact the team fight and run away with the game. It was poor target focus, but very smart play from Choke to force Exertus into a position where they say, you either fight us and lose, or you lose your inhibitor and lose. It was a catch-22. Exertus went for the lesser of two evils. They weren't able to make it work, and Choke were able to close out the game.
Yeah, superb game there by Choke. Superb turnaround after that first game where they really were on the back foot for the majority of it versus Exertus. Now, guys, we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. I think it's at 3 p.m. UK time with the next series. That's Team Infused versus FM. A massive matchup between two of the biggest UK esports teams. After that, we'll be back for the finals on the 5th and 6th of December. They'll be live streamed from our studios. It's going to be a superb game tomorrow. It's going to be a superb series and a superb finals in a couple of weeks. Make sure you tune in then. I've been Sona. My co-caster has been the magnanimous, the beautiful, the gorgeous, the vain, and the glorious Hevedius. Guys, tune in next time.